What's up? Happy Monday. How is it going? I hope your Monday has been great so far. I am here again with another Monday message because that's what this is, Monday message. So thanks for tuning in and clicking the button that took you to this video. I'm really honored that you are taking time to hear what I have to say. So today's message is a quote from one of my favorite mentors. His name is Brendon Burchard, and he said, well, I think he said it, I heard him say it, I don't know if he heard it from somewhere else, but he said that perfectionism is a prerequisite for nothing other than suffering. Let me say that again. I know we need some time to let that sink in, especially those of us out there who are perfectionists. So he says that perfectionism is a prerequisite for nothing other than suffering. Right? So if you'd like to continue on your life with all the suffering that you have, then continue striving to be perfect. If you want to come away from a lot of the suffering that you have in your life, then we got to let go of this idea of perfectionism, or rather the idea of being perfect. I think perfectionism and being perfect are two separate things, and I'm going to terse that out for us a little bit here today. So let me just check my notes really quick. I think that what we need to start to do is embrace this idea that growing is messy. Let's just step it back a little bit too. Birthing ourselves is messy, right? Childbirth is a messy thing, right? Rebirthing yourself into a new level of who you are is going to be a messy thing. Unfoldment is a messy thing. Excavating your greatness, right? Excavation is a messy thing. Letting go and surrendering is also a messy thing, right? It's just, being human is messy. And I think if we can just kind of step into that and own that concept and own that reality, that our journey is going to be messy. It's going to be messy and it's not going to be perfect. Then we are going to push past a lot of blocks that we have. And we begin to unhook from this idea of perfectionism, this idea that we need to be perfect. Right? I don't know where we got this idea from, and I think that it really hinders so many of us from chasing our dreams because we think it's got to look perfect, whatever that is. We create these sort of romantic notions of what achieving our goals is going to look like. We have these romantic notions of, when we achieve that thing or we step into that part of ourselves, we've romanticized what it's going to look like. And if it's anything less, it's not perfect, then we think that there's something wrong with us, or that we didn't do it right, or that we shouldn't be doing it at all. And I'd love for more and more of us, in our community and in our city and in our state and in our country and on our planet, more and more of us really striving to better ourselves. And I think this is where a healthy version of perfecting comes in, right? There's a difference between being perfect and perfecting something. Being perfect implies that it's complete, it's done, there's no more growth, that's it. We've reached the best it can get and it's awesome and we're just gonna stay there. And that's just not the human journey. It's not the human evolution. The human evolution is one of perfecting ourselves all along the way. That's what growth is. Growth is coming into a new level of ourselves and then perfecting that thing so that it's a new level again. Right? And that's the messy part, is up-leveling our lives and up-leveling ourselves and up-leveling our habits and our disciplines and our patterns and our behaviors, up-leveling our beliefs. Right? And so in that up-leveling is where the perfection happens, right? But we're not looking to be perfect, right? We're looking to upgrade the level of perfectionism that we have in our lives. Does this make sense? I hope it makes sense, right? We're not trying to be perfect, but we're trying to perfect things as we grow. And I think that we need to really shift our perspective of perfectionism, right? We're not trying to be perfect at something, but we're trying to perfect something. Does that make sense? We're not trying to find this completeness, okay, good, it's the end all, I've achieved that thing, that's as high as I can go. But as we are journeying through life, it's okay to strive for perfecting who we are, perfecting this skill, or perfecting the offering, or perfecting the discipline. And there's no like end place. We get this a lot in yoga where people want to know, like, is my pose perfect? But the yoga poses are like ever evolving as we are ever evolving. And so there's no really end to these goals. We can, these poses, we can always be perfecting them. Just like, my kindness isn't always going to be perfect. There's no like perfect place, but I can always be perfecting my kindness, my compassion, my patience, right? Like even musicians, like there's no musician that you're going to meet who's like, I've perfected music, right? They're always trying to perfect their skill. They're not ever feeling like I'm perfect. They are always perfecting their skill. And so my goal for you is to kind of unpack this word in a way where you have a different lens at which you look at the word and the idea of being perfect. We don't have to be perfect, but we should always strive to be perfecting who we are, right? And so on that note, perfection happens in motion. Like, how do you perfect something? Right? A lot of us have these things that we want to do in life, and we think, when I'm perfect, I'll do that thing because then I'll be ready. But the only way that we can get perfect or perfect it, right? You see that shift? It's not about being perfect. It's about perfecting the skill. The only way we do that is in motion, right? Like I want to do these videos and it terrifies me to be on camera. It really terrifies me. And the only way I'm going to get better at it, right, and perfect my ability to be on camera is by doing it and messing up and letting it be messy. Like, you have no idea how many takes I have to do to make these videos to where they're decent enough for me to send them out to you. But I only get better at it by doing it. And so perfection happens in motion. It's all about getting in motion and starting messy and allowing yourself to go through that process of like, how can I make this better? How can I improve this area? How can I refine it just a little bit more? That is the perfection process. That's how we perfect things, right? We got to shift gears from I'm trying to be perfect and come into the place, the intention where it's like, I want to perfect this skill, right? Perfect implies that it's complete. Perfecting it implies that we're always growing. And so I want you to give yourself permission to unhook from this idea of perfectionism. Like, I know there are a lot of you out there who want to write a book, but you're never going to release that book until it's perfect. But the only way you'll be able to perfect the book is by letting other people read the book and edit the book and make changes and redo the layout and change the order and all that stuff, right? Like, you can only really begin to perfect it by putting it out there. So perfection happens in motion. It doesn't happen by you waiting for all of a sudden the idea to be perfect and for you to be perfect, and boom, you put it out and it's an overnight success. Right? There's no such thing as an overnight success. If you want to be an overnight success, you have to be an everyday hustler. And I don't mean like you got to hustle for your worthiness. There's work you got to put into it, right? And there's the being in motion that you got to do to really evolve it and to grow it and to refine it to where you feel like you have perfected your ability to write as much as you can in that moment, and you put that thing out. And then you put that book out, you get your reviews, you get feedback, and then it's time to write another book. You do that thing, you practice writing that book, you put those pages together, and then boom, it's even better than the last one because you've perfected it because you've been in motion. You didn't make it perfect, you just perfected it. I hope this is making sense, and I hope that this is resonating with you. And I want to leave you with sort of 2 action steps that you could take. One is, where can you let go of perfection in your life? Like, what area in your life are you stressing out over and suffering because you don't feel perfect in that area? I'll share a little bit of myself. I grew up with a dad who was, let's see, what's the right word? He really obsessed over cleanliness, like tremendous obsession over cleanliness. And as an adult in my own life with my kids, I have 2 kids, really 2 messy boys who just love to play and get into all kinds of stuff. And I run a business and I have lots going on, and I can't spend every Sunday cleaning my house and putting my kids to work. That's what my dad used to do, is every Sunday we'd have to clean the house inside and out. We'd have to weed the garden, we'd have to dust, vacuum, mop, take out all the trash, wash the windows on the insides and the outsides, clean all the mirrors and everything. And my dad would come in and check all that stuff to make sure that it was clean. And that was just his way of living that was comfortable for him. And I have a lot of gratitude for that now, because I can appreciate cleanliness and I appreciate values he was trying to instill in me. But sometime last year or the year before, I just gave up my attachment to having my house be perfectly clean. I realized that I'm not my dad, and I don't need my house to be spotless, spick span, totally organized. My dad also used to have a huge collection of CDs. For those of you that are young enough out there, CDs were these round metal discs that you used to put into the machine that would play music, and they came in these plastic cases. And my dad used to have these sort of racks for all the CDs, and he would alphabetize them, and they'd be hung up on the wall, and they'd be super organized and super perfect. And so as an adult, I would feel less than. I would feel like I was a failure as an adult if my house wasn't as clean and organized as what my dad taught me clean and organized was. That made my dad happy. I realized that I didn't need that to be happy. That I was okay if my house was a little dusty. I was okay if things weren't as organized, because I knew where everything was. It was fine for me. I don't feel less than if my house isn't super organized and spick span clean all the time. I know other people are not in the same boat, and they feel okay when their house is clean. And I'm not saying that my house is a pigsty. I think there is something to be said for keeping your house in order and having a level of cleanliness in your house. But I didn't need to obsess over a perfectly clean house, because that made me a good adult. And I had to let that go. And I just decided one day, I don't need to do that. I don't need to suffer because I'm beating myself up because my house isn't as clean as the way my dad would like it. I don't need the same level of cleanliness or perfection in my cleanliness that he needed to feel good about himself. And so I just let that go. And I stopped beating myself up for not being able to clean the house once a week. I still clean my house, and you should too. But I don't get to it as often as my dad would like. And that's what I was comparing myself to, is my dad's level of perfection. And my dad definitely was and still is somewhat of a perfectionist. And on that note, let me just finish with, this concept that perfectionism is really just a disguise. It's a great excuse that disguises your procrastination. Sorry, I was looking at my notes because I want to make sure I made these points to you. Perfectionism, right? I can't do it because it's not perfect yet, is a great disguise of an excuse of why you can procrastinate. Perfectionism, you wanting to do something perfect and not doing it because it isn't perfect yet, is a great way to disguise your excuse for procrastinating on that goal, right? I've also had this experience too where I wanted to write a teacher training curriculum, and I hadn't written it yet. I hadn't launched this program yet because I wanted to write the perfect curriculum. Which, if I had stuck to that, the curriculum would have never come out, and I would never have led teacher trainings. And I can tell you that I was pushed by some mentors in my life to just you know what you're doing, you're a good leader, you're a good teacher, just do it already. It doesn't need to be perfect. You can correct it as you go. You can modify it as you go. You can edit it as you go. You can make changes as you go. So perfection happens in motion. Perfecting something happens in motion. And that definitely was the case. I just had to start somewhere. I had to start somewhere. And if I had not started, that thing would never be in play, and I wouldn't have touched as many lives as I have been able to touch. If I had waited till it was perfect, this city would be different. And I'm not trying to claim that I've made all these changes to the city, but I've seen so many people go through my program who have become empowered. And because of their sense of empowerment, they are now offering workshops, and they are now offering classes, and they are now offering one-on-one sessions, whether it be yoga or coaching or training or whatever it is that they're doing. And And this one person, because I decided to not stand in my perfectionism and allow myself to perfect my skill, I could see the trickle out and the reach that it's happened out into the city. And I'm just so grateful that I had people in my life to push me in and say, no, you need to do it now. It's never going to be perfect, so just start. And I'm so glad that I started, and I'm so glad that I had people in my life to push me. So I'm here to give you a little push and challenge you to think about, what are 2 areas or 2 things in your life that you have been obsessing about being perfect at? And where can you take the edge off a little bit and say, I don't need to be perfect at it, but I can start my journey towards perfecting my ability to do those things, right? And can you just get started now? So where can you let go of perfection in your life? Really just take some time to think about that. Where do I stop myself because I don't feel perfect enough, right? Where do you stop yourself, and where can you unhook from that idea of perfection and start to dive in? So what are 2 things that you're going to stop trying to perfect? 2 things that you're going to stop trying to perfect, and just let the growth happen. Right? Allow yourself to have that perfection happen in motion as you grow. I think that you will alleviate a lot of suffering in your life and a lot of self-judgment and criticism and also disappointment in the self, because you haven't started that thing yet that your heart is calling you to. You haven't started it, or you haven't pushed past a hurdle yet because you're stuck in it's not perfect. When you can unhook from that, I guarantee you're going to find a lot of ease in your soul, and you're going to find a lot of okayness with who you are. Give yourself permission to be messy, right? Let yourself show up and be a mess. It's all right. It's totally a part of the journey, right? When we learn how to be an adult at first, it's messy. We make all kinds of mistakes, but often it is through those mistakes that we learn how to be a better adult. So where can you unhook from perfectionism? What are areas in your life where you feel like you need to be perfect? And what are 2 things that you're going to stop trying to be perfect at and just allow growth to happen because you're willing to show up? All right. I hope that today's Monday message has served you in some way. If it has, please forward them this email and encourage them to click it open and watch this video. And if you want to let me know what you're working on, feel free to email me back directly to this email and let me know. I'd love to hear what areas that you're going to stop trying to be perfect in, because as much as I strive to inspire you, I am also inspired by you. So we're all in this together. I am one of you. I am in the game with you. I am in the game of life with you, and so I'd love to hear what's going on with you and what you're going to stop trying to perfect. Me, I'm going to stop trying to perfect these videos, and I'm just getting in the game and showing up, whether it's messy or not, because I know that these videos are serving a handful of you out there, and that just makes my heart so happy to know that you guys are finding relief and permission to be yourselves and to grow and to be on your journey. So with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to your responses, and I am just really grateful to be here with you and to be able to be of service to you. So thank you for tuning in. Until next Monday, have a fabulous week, and stop trying to be perfect. Allow yourself to perfect yourself as you grow. Many blessings. Namaste.